Hello, Chastity.
Hello, Chantel.
How are you today?
I'm fine, thank you.
Excellent. So happy to be here with you. Thank you for coming and sharing your story. And we just want to jump right in. And so tell me, what was like one of your first core memories that you ever had that you can remember
As a child,
as a child?
one of my first core memories, I would have to say, was my mom being on drugs. Um, Coming in and out of my life as a child, being very inconsistent, leaving me with my grandparents or my father and my stepmother, and just being absent a lot.
So you felt like really abandoned and kind of alone.
Absolutely. Definitely not knowing what I know now, as a child, I just was always searching for that love that I I sought out in adults, from adults, but I really just was craving that from my mother.
So, not having that from your mom, not having that connection and a positive influence, how did that affect you growing up and like getting into relationships and things like that?
Well, that affected me because I was looking for love in all the wrong places, and my choice of guys, because I became sexually active at a young age. I want to say I was 13. Um, their lives were just as chaotic as mine, but I was attracted to that, um, which led me to my first kid's father, who was also who had also come from a broken home and was in and out of the prison system, starting with as a youth and working his way up to you know
So
correctional.
you went through a lot, like kind of without any guidance.
Correct.
And then when you found the guys, you kind of thought that was a little bit of stability. So you might have like jumped right into the relationship. Would you say?
I wouldn't say stability.
Yeah.
I would say more so, the way they loved me, especially my kid's father. That craziness, that chaos. I thought that meant love, um, and also me chasing him. As well.
Yeah. So, fast forward, you find a husband, you have some children and things like that. Go through a lot of life. What would you say was a point in time when you were like rock bottom?
I would say my rock bottom was when I started to abuse drugs. That definitely was my rock bottom. That kind of just happened, it progressed, over, I want to say maybe about over 10 to 15 years, starting from when I was introduced to drugs to just recently, 15 months ago. Yeah.
What was like your gateway drug? What was like your drug of choice that you did?
As a teenager, I was introduced to ecstasy. I just experimented with it, nothing crazy. I didn't really get into ecstasy again until I married. Well, I didn't marry him, but we were together. My second husband, who would then become my husband, but he was not my boyfriend at the time. We were doing ecstasy every weekend.
Okay. And then from that, what came after that?
Um, oh, excuse me. Before that, my first husband, I was introduced to Percocets,
Okay.
due to a bad car accident that he was in. I found myself taking Percocets, first light headaches and to really feel better. But nothing, it didn't become a habit until later on, until I started with my second husband.
Okay. So it was ecstasy and Percocets and like what else came
Um, After the Percocets, from 5 milligrams to 30 milligrams, until it was a full blown problem. I wasn't able to function without it. I started to sniff cocaine. I got introduced to cocaine, and being that I had already started sniffing my pills, I figured, hey, I already started putting something in my nostrils, so why not? What's the difference? And it was more of an upper, so I definitely liked it because with the busy life that I had, being a mom, a full-time wife, full-time employee, and even a youth leader in church, I became very addicted to cocaine.
Wow. So all of those kind of drugs just had you going and going, and what would you say was a point in time when you realized this is it, I can't get any lower and something has to change?
Well, I realized that when I started to take Percocet 30s, and I was taking them like Skittles, every couple hours to function, to go to work, I realized I couldn't get out of bed one day without taking the pill, or a pill. So I had to go on Suboxone. That was the beginning of the habit and the other habits that were to come. So I want to say I was about 25 when that happened. But it got really worse. They got really bad when I got introduced to heroin. I was about 30 when I was introduced to heroin. I had been off the Percocets for a while, no longer on a MAT, which is medicated assisted treatment, which was Suboxone. I started to self-medicate again with the heroin.
Wow.
Yeah, that's when it really took off.
So with heroin, like, what were some of those side effects when you would get on that drug, and how, like, what were the highs of it, and what were the lows of it?
Well, just like, any drug that you try in the beginning, it's always fun, you think anyways. My side effects, I was up. I had energy, like the Percocet had given me once before. But as I gradually started to get more and formulate a habit, it started to become a downer. So I was tired. At that point, that's when I started to use cocaine and heroin together in Speedball. So it was like a middle for me because I didn't like being too up and I didn't like being too down. I tried to be normal.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
So I'm sure that affected like your image, your appearance, how you could parent, and just all your relationships.
Oh, definitely. It definitely did. And like I said, I was what we call a functional drug addict.
Mm-hmm.
So I was still able to go to church, still able to go, still able to go to work. I worked actually in the mental health field. At that time, I was a homeless outreach case worker, and I was functioning for a while until I couldn't function anymore. And there was no more double lifers, so I thought, and nobody knew. But it starts to progress fast.
Wow. So then, what was a point in time where you feel, or signs, or what actually kind of stopped your use?
Nothing. I had my children removed. We had lost our house due to toxic mold, but at that point, I was already out of control, so I had no money to be able to get another place, or function without it for that matter. My addiction really took off. I got my kids back and everything else about maybe 18, 19 months later. Fast forward, I remained clean, and then I relapsed again. And that's when it took, it had me in the grips. I was in the grips of addiction. I couldn't function in my house. I didn't want to be bothered with my kids. I would lock myself in my room or the bathroom. I was there, but I wasn't effective. I kind of just let them do whatever so they would get out of my way. I was very stuck, lost, miserable. I still maintained going to church. I was faking it till I made it, until, I got pregnant with my 4-year-old and I had no choice but to stop. I found out I was pregnant when I was 4 months pregnant with him because of the use of drugs. I was having irregular periods, so I didn't know I was pregnant, and I hadn't had a baby in 11 years, so I was really shocked. Needless to say, I was able to get clean, bring him home from the hospital, and about 7 months after that, I relapsed again. Yeah.
A lot. So then, you've now been clean for 15 months.
I have.
So, did you, like, there was no help in the church or no one that you felt that you could confide in to walk with you through this?
I was too embarrassed. I was ashamed. I was humiliated. I was a youth leader. I didn't want to have to admit that I was on drugs. And everything happened so fast. DCF came in, which is the Department of Children and Families in Connecticut, and they had removed my children. And after that, it's like in the process of that, I was going through postpartum depression. I lost it. I left my house with the clothes on my back, and I never looked back.
Where did you go?
I went to a friend's house. I actually had a Section 8 voucher. I let them take that. So everything that I owned in that apartment, in that house, 4-bedroom house, 2-car garage, just, I left it. I left everything behind. Walked down the hill and never walked back up.
Wow. Until, what happened after that?
A lot.
A lot. In a nutshell.
In a nutshell, I was a traveling addict. I was hitting state to state, getting high with who was my friend, who then became my boyfriend. We were just partying. We were able to do that. He had come into a large amount of money, and we were able to live crazy, la vida loca. And we went anywhere from New Jersey to Virginia to Maine, and then we ended up in Florida.
Which is where we are now, which
Yes.
is where we met.
Yes, we did.
So we met about 3 years ago.
Yeah.
I was at a transitional house. I was the vice president of the transitional house, and
Right.
Chastity came in, and something just connected me with her automatically. She was like just an amazing spirit, like really hard worker, just wanted to help, but you still didn't get the healing that you needed. And so after a little while of working and being in that program, it happened again.
It did. I got in a relationship with someone in another house, and I relapsed. I wasn't ready. I still had pending things back home in Connecticut that were haunting me.
Which was?
I had 7 warrants. Yep. I went from having no record at all, being like your typical regular family, to I started catching cases at 34, and being that I was out here in Florida, and I ended up stuck out here with no return ticket because we booked a one-way trip. I had failure to appears in all my cases for Connecticut.
What kind of cases were those?
Anywhere from, I had mainly larceny 6s, assault. Yeah, assault and larcenies. Yeah.
That's a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So then you went back to Connecticut.
I did.
And what was the moment that led you to now this 15 months clean and clear?
So I got tired. I was so tired. I had been in jail already twice in Connecticut. All my warrants had got cleared up, but I still wasn't ready. I guess I want to say I was ready, but mentally I wasn't. I hadn't surrendered. I had not surrendered 100%. I was in the middle of my surrendering because it started in Florida, but I hadn't surrendered 100%. I still had my own will. And I remember one day, me and the boyfriend that I had at the time, we were at some stranger's house that we met on one of the streets in Hartford, where we used to cop our drugs. he invited us to his house. Well, needless to say, the next day, my boyfriend at the time had went to go to court, left me there, and we split up. So I remember just running around in that building, staying from apartment to apartment. I don't even, by the time I was done, like, I didn't even have my own shoes on. Like, it was, I had to walk down the street, along down the street, because at that point, I didn't have no drugs in my system. I was exhausted, depleted. I tried to walk to my mom's house, which eventually I made it. I had some stops along the way. But I just feel like, I just want to add this, that God's been with me the whole time, because, like, I just want to give him all the glory and all the praise, because, although, I met other men and that were on drugs, it's almost like he allowed me to have the men with good spirits. Like, one man allowed me to sleep in his house, in his son's room, because he's like, girl, you look tired. Like, I was done. I couldn't even walk down the hill. I was just depleted. But which I stay connected with to this day. And yes, he's amazing. Yeah. I made it to my mother's house, snuck in there because I was banned from her building. And she's there. There's tight security there. And I just remember laying on her bed. Like, I could not. I had stopped at the spot to go get me a bag, because heroin, fentanyl, heroin, same thing, is in a physical addiction, and that bag didn't even do anything to me. It was like nothing. So by the time I got there, I just laid out on her bed and tried to detox myself. Yeah. It just wasn't happening.
So then you got back into some programs?
I did. I got into Intercommunity in Hartford. I got into Intercommunity in Hartford, and in that process, I had to go through a mental health evaluation, because I just mentally wasn't right. Like, the reality and what's the word I'm looking for? Real life wasn't, it just wasn't aligning. Yeah, it's just I was living in fantasy. Fantasy and reality. I was living in fantasy. Like, I just remember, like, thinking that people were recording my life. Like, it was like an outer body experience. Like, I'm looking at myself from the outside, and I thought it was real. But I stayed in that treatment program. I graduated successfully, and here I am now.
Here you are now.
Yes.
Still standing.
I am.
Shining bright, brighter than ever before.
Yes.
Just a beautiful being of God.
Thank you.
So, like, now let's talk about, after lots of healing,
yes.
long process, long
yes.
journey.
Yes.
What are you now doing in your career?
So now I just started a brand new position, working for a sober house in Connecticut. They have about seven to eight sober houses. They're opening a halfway house in June for women, because there's not many out in Connecticut. And I'm doing case management and outreach.
Awesome. That's so amazing. That's like full circle. God brought you full circle.
He sure did.
And you see, he had to take you through things, so now you can relate to those that you are serving.
Absolutely.
So, as on the side of the position that you have, what are you doing for other individuals?
So, on a daily basis, I have many people who contact me, friends included, people who are a part of my network, who, just call me, and we bless each other, we bless each other, we pour into each other. But I have women from, the program Narcotics Anonymous who call me. I have one who's in California. She moved out there to try to get, do the geographical change thing and stay clean out there, which she is. I'm so proud of her. But she'll call me on a regular basis, just to talk and so I can counsel her through things. I meet young girls all the time in and out the rooms. I just met an 18-year-old. She's amazing. I've been connecting with her, and whenever they have an issue, they'll call me, and I encourage them. I pour into them. I pray with them. Yeah.
Wow. So you are now like in the position to be able to coach and counsel
Yes.
and consult with people.
Absolutely.
So that's so amazing. I thank you for sharing your story. You see,
Thank
like
you.
God uses the hard things in order to
Right.
get us to where it is we need to be.
Absolutely.
And so now you can consult with other agencies on how they can utilize best practices.
Right.
Because we really have to have like trauma-informed care when
Absolutely.
we're working with people, so that they know it's a safe place.
Right.
And then you do your coaching.
Oh,
on
yeah.
People who call you.
Absolutely. And I just recently got certified by the state of Connecticut as a recovery support specialist. I specialize in mental health and substance abuse.
Wow.
So,
Certified.
yes.
Wow. That's amazing. You have an amazing story and an amazing future ahead of you.
Thank you.
And I just want to encourage you to just keep going no matter what.
Thank you.
Don't look back.
That's right.
You know where your strength lies.
Mhm.
You've been through so much, and you have so much more beautiful things to come. So
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, y'all. We'll put some connections so you can see how to get in touch with Chastity.
Yes.
She is doing public speaking, so she will show up at your event and just present her heart to your audience, and it is guaranteed to make a difference. So thank you. Bye.
Thank you.